stacks on her mind, grinding all day, hustle refined, chatter is ceiling, G steers and obtain, boss is a title, wealth is a game.
Because she is such a powerhouse. Now, in this song, she's talking about a love interest. Who fooled her? And I love the chorus because she says, "You put on quite a show. Very entertaining," which is a terrible feeling, high earning community. It really is. Have you been there when you find out someone tricked you into believing they were someone else? It just doesn't feel good, does it? Well, this also happens online. Unfortunately, when we're trying to hire someone in our company, and when we make that decision based on false information, the consequences of that can be devastating. It really only takes one employee, I know, I've been there, to ruin your culture, create productivity bottlenecks, not to mention all the wasted time and your precious energy. So where do you start when it comes to hiring people confidently? If you're still crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, well, this episode is for you. Today, I'm actually joined by Caitlyn Mackrell, the CEO of AuraData, a company that's actually dedicated to making trust measurable in the digital world. I love that word, measurable. And today we're going to dive into how credibility, confidence, and clarity aren't just buzzwords. They're the foundation of how women leaders can thrive in business. Caitlyn, I saw you jamming over there. What's your thoughts? How do you like Rihanna for our intro? Welcome to the show.
Love Rihanna. Huge fan over here. And it really ties into the topic that we're discussing today because
I love pretending to be a DJ on this show. So that's kind of like the thing. It just kind of sparks like, which song can I connect to a podcast episode? So yeah, that's my whole thing.
I love it. You're doing a great job.
Well, I'm glad to see you jamming over there. Now let's start actually from the beginning, because I would love to know, how does someone like yourself end up in this space? Because I'm thinking it's probably not something you heard about in school. So what's your origin story? Share with our community.
Well, I definitely didn't grow up dreaming of verifying degrees. No kid, I think, is out there saying, when I grow up, I'm going to catch fake diplomas. But once I saw how often trust is being assumed rather than earned, you can't unsee it. My personal story is a little bit interesting. I graduated from psychology and then went to work at Intact Insurance downtown, which is a huge switch. And I was headhunted by Scotiabank and brought over there, and I was working there. And my mentor actually is the president and founder of AuraData, and I had conversations with him, multiple times a week. And I said, I don't really love what I'm doing right now. And I'd always kept an ear to the ground with what was going on with AuraData. And he said, I'd really like to have lunch to discuss something with you. And he brought me to lunch and said, I'm looking at retiring. I'd really like you to come take over. And this is something that, like I said, it's not what you dream of getting into, but once I was in it, it just, it really clicked. That's when things seemed to just kind of fit for me when I joined AuraData. I feel like this is really where I was meant to be.
Yeah, sometimes, your career path just takes you on a completely different journey than you've ever imagined. So clearly, just based on the work you're doing, it's where you're supposed to be.
I think so too. It's not glamorous. There's no capes involved. But it is kind of detective work in a way. And for someone who's a little bit of a type A and also a mom, I find the details really oddly satisfying. It's like cleaning out the junk drawer of the professional world. I really get to go in and find out what works and what doesn't work for companies who are looking to hire.
Well, I love it. I think when there were a couple of things that you said earlier that resonated with me, which is people just make assumptions when hiring, and we've all been there. And so I'd love for you to dig into this whole idea of credential verification. And obviously, business owners like myself, like the hiring community, we don't always have time, but explain to us why credential verification matters. And do people really lie on resumes in a way that we don't actually expect? Like, I'm thinking you might want to take off some of your time out of your workforce. So maybe you took more time off than you wanted to. And sometimes people, maybe they left a job, whatever, but people lie about their credentials on their resumes. Do you have any thoughts about this? Because I'd love to learn a little bit more about this. It's kind of fascinating that people would take that kind of risk.
They do, and more often than you would think. So at AuraData, we help companies to know who to trust when they're hiring. We double check educational credentials specifically so that businesses don't get stuck with fake degrees or sketchy resumes. We make hiring a little bit less of a gamble. I've seen many, many, many instances where people are lying specifically about their education credentials. I've seen fake transcripts. I've seen everything. And my favorite part is when I get to hop on the phones. So at AuraData, all our customer service reps are based in Canada. We answer the phone within 3 rings. That's one of our rules, is answer the phone within 3 rings. As long as you can, you're physically able to, you've got to answer the phone. So I jump on the phones fairly often, and I've had some really fun conversations where Botox specialists, is my Botox specialist someone, and I always think, like, if you have to even ask that question, go see a different Botox specialist. You're not in the right place. Or we get a couple sad ones, family ones, where dads are paying alimony for their kid to go to school, but they're not sure they're actually in school, and they're trying to check whether or not their kid actually graduated with the designation or degree they say they did, which, I mean, in Canada, you have to have consent. So in that case, you would have to have consent. Or after the fact, and these are the ones that really break my heart, are when companies are calling me after they've hired someone, they've been on the job for a little while, and they say, I'm not sure about this person. I'd really like to go back and kind of catch them in a lie. And it's awkward at that point to get the consent to do the education verification. So really, it's something that has to be done when you're hiring. A good friend of mine, Marty Britton, wrote a book. She said, hire slow, fire fast. So really take your time when you're hiring. With AI and generative AI, and we see it in the news everywhere, there's so much forgery going on with educational credentials, transcripts, everything right now, that you really have to be sure of who you're getting it from, the validity of where that source is coming from. And luckily, AuraData kind of takes that work out of it for you. I really, really, truly do believe in what we do.
Well, what I'm hearing, which kind of goes back to, you make assumptions about what the resume says that it's true, and then you meet the person and they might be really, they sound great, like sound very polished. They answer the questions properly. So I've been there, right? So I get it. Hiring community, you're not alone if you've gone through, trust being broken because the person didn't have the credentials or even the experience that they said that they had. And then you're talking about now with generative AI and all of this technology that can make it even easier for people to be deceptive. So if all of these things happen and you're not actually diligent about it, you could be stuck with a hire who has completely deceived you. And you're kind of I always feel like as business owners, sometimes women, we've done this, like where we hire somebody and we don't feel good about it. Okay, I'll just say me, because I've done it. I hire someone, I don't feel that great about them, but I'm already down the path. It's kind of like a relationship that doesn't start off the way you want, but you have the person has so much promise. So you're already on that train. And then you start going down that train where you're like, okay, yeah, this person, maybe I see some green flags, yellow flags, whatever. Green flags, red flags, orange flags, yellow flags, red flags. Right? And you're like, you don't start to trust your gut until maybe 6 months down the line. And it sounds like it could be then, or it could be later, where the person's like, I think I've made a really bad mistake. Okay, I'm ready to like tell my brain that wants to be right that I'm wrong about this hire. And what you're saying is the real pain comes from not checking that person out in the first place.
Yeah, it's not just about catching liars. It's about protecting your business. It's about,
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
women-led businesses, protecting your business from reputational risk. Once trust is broken, you can't just issue a new password and reset it. It's really quite more than that. And with AI, we're seeing people not just completely outright lying, they're stretching truths.
Right.
So you might have an engineering degree, but we're seeing the addition of with high honors, which doesn't actually exist on that diploma. You can, you just add it. It's not, you can't walk in with a piece of paper to an interview anymore and say, here you go, this is my education. Because that's just not a thing, especially with hybrid working situations. But
which we're going to talk about. One more question around that, which is what type of companies are more often than not coming to you for this type of background check?
So the majority of my clients are either background checking companies, CRAs, or government.
I see.
Oftentimes, especially in our world, this sort of work is outsourced right now.
Right.
So in the case of AuraData, a graduate would go to a hiring company. That hiring company, the HR would actually outsource the background check to a company. There's multiple Canadian ones, lots in the Americas as well. And then AuraData is just a section. They're the education verifications portion of that. So we focus exclusively on Canadian post-secondary Canadian education verification.
I see.
So we do one thing really, really well right now. Although we do have some new product offerings in the mix, that is what we do.
Okay, that's good to know, because I'm just thinking of our community. So for hiring women listening here, if you are in a business where you can't afford to get your hire wrong, actually, if you can't afford to get your hire wrong, it sounds like they should be reaching out to some company who can get in touch with you to make sure these types of background checks are looked into. And we were just talking a little bit as well about all of the risks associated with hiring that wrong person who, as you said, might have embellished, might have lied on their resume. And I just think about, you said reputational risk, productivity risk we talked about, and just even potentially, because sometimes team members know about the person before you do, right? But they're afraid to say anything because maybe you seem all gung-ho about them. And again, all of these decisions, when they don't work out, hey, these things happen, like where you hire the wrong person. But it's, as you said, it's hiring slowly and firing quickly so that you can kind of right the ship sooner rather than later. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what I'd love to do now is, because I'd love to know, we talked about the fact that you didn't expect to be in this space, and you're in this very technical, very trust-focused space. And I'd love to know, is there many women in this space? And who's your community?
That's an interesting question. There aren't many women in the IT space when I deal with a lot of my clients, who are often American background checking companies. But I have been really enlightened lately to see that there's such an increase in IT women from the post-secondary institutions in Canada. I'm seeing so many more institutions elevating their female staff to the more prestigious IT roles, which is really, really cool. I don't necessarily belong to any IT specific groups, but now that you mention it, I should really either found or find one, because it would be really cool to be a part of like-minded women in that space.
Well,
Yeah.
I say this because it does sound very technical, and unfortunately, the things are changing. But we often don't have as many women in these highly technical roles. And so I asked if there's any women in this space because I was doubtful if there was, but happy to see that they are looking. That the community itself is taking steps to elevate women in that space. Having said that, as a woman in this role, have you been in scenarios because it's more male dominated where you felt underestimated, for example?
I think as women, we are constantly underestimated all of the time. Honestly, being underestimated can be a little bit of an asset too, though. It gives you the element of surprise, which is fun. It's kind of like being underestimated in a game of poker, except instead of cards, I've got data, right?
Yes, underestimated could be used in poker and also being a woman and the element of surprise. I love it.
Definitely. And you know what? I started in this position when I was just 28 years old. I came and took over AuraData almost 8 years ago now, which is a
Wow.
little crazy. And being 28, I came from corporate Toronto where I was underestimated constantly. I remember going into a meeting where I was deciding whether or not this VP was going to keep his job. And he turned to me and said, you know, you really have a swimmer's body. Like that had anything to do with
Come again?
anything. Yeah. Excuse me? Like, okay.
And I gave you permission to talk about my body. How?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Not to mention that is not what you should be focusing on in the slightest. I've had people assume I was assistant in the meetings, but the moment that they realize that I'm the one running the business is kind of priceless. I don't even need caffeine after that. It's just, you know, it's so much fun being a woman and being underestimated. And, you know, it's kind of funny. I recently asked AI as a prompt. Someone put this up on LinkedIn. They said, with all the data you've collected on me and everything you've learned through all of our interactions, tell me who I am at my core. Don't sugarcoat the code or soften your response. And I saw this prompt on LinkedIn and I went, well, that's fun. I've been kind of dabbling in AI, both in my personal life and a lot with work, which is something I'm very passionate about talking about. So if you want to go into AI and all the fun things it can do, I would love to have that conversation. But
Yes, for sure.
It's just funny because ChatGPT, because that's who I was using. Who's a she, by the way? Because if AI had a gender, it would obviously be a woman.
I love that. And why do you think so? That, considering it's created mostly by men, but go on.
Well, you know, she's just so informative and witty. It has to be a woman. And sassy. And sassy. But she said all these nice things. And then I asked her what the one thing that trips me up most often was. It was one of those prompts that comes up underneath on the screen.
And you said you asked it, what's the one thing that what?
Trips me up most often.
Trips you up the most. Okay.
So what's the kind of one downfall to all of these prompts that I've been putting into ChatGPT and all this time I've been spending training this AI agent and looking into this? And she said that most often it was my tendency to juggle both precision and speed at the same time. Tell me what working woman doesn't feel this, because I felt that was just the most generic response and extremely accurate at the same time.
Oh, wow. I have so many thoughts about this. So she basically said, you're trying to be everything to everybody, which almost identifies every woman out there ever.
Yeah, basically.
Precision, speed. Isn't that what people ask for us every day? And if we do one, we go underneath that slightly, we're judged. But anyways, that's a whole other day.
Well, that's part of what is so great about ChatGPT and AI right now too, is it's helping us. If I need to write an email with a certain tone, it's so easy to put the prompts in and have them curate something almost perfect for what it is I need it, versus me sitting there and thinking about the tone and spending all these times on tasks that really don't have high value. But are still important to me as a person.
So she can help. So she being the technology that's helping us elevate, like a ChatGPT, she can help with both speed and precision.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love it. I'm going to pivot to, because we've been talking about technology and the role, I'd love to get your thoughts as well on leadership in this hybrid world we're all navigating. And, it's slowly becoming less hybrid, but still for a lot of firms out there, they're navigating having people, work from home and, come back into the office. And a lot's changed so much since the pandemic. And, I just wonder how you think hybrid has impacted how we monitor and how we grow and how we lead. And if you're noticing any specific changes.
Huge. Such an interesting topic for me. So AuraData we are OG work from home.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have a location, which was really hard when setting up my Google Analytics. And a lot of the times, companies, people you deal with want you to have a physical headquarters.
Yes.
And we just don't. I think I mentioned 100% Canadian. Everybody lives in Canada, but we live all over. No one lives in the same city, actually, even, which is, becoming more and more prevalent, I think. But
absolutely. Our team,
yeah.
Just being completely transparent, is all hybrid as well, and all working remotely across Canada, actually.
So you can relate.
I absolutely can.
Transparency trumps proximity every single time. So having that open conversation with your staff, setting expectations, building alignment, none of these things have to happen in person at all. You can do one-on-ones. You can share your wins. You can create rituals that reinforce your culture. You can have celebrations. You can have inside jokes.
Yeah, we do. All of the above.
All of the above. You can sit beside someone all day and still have no idea what they accomplished. Ask any parent of a teenager that. You can sit beside someone and have no idea what's going on in their life. Hybrid hiring raises the stakes. You may never meet a candidate in person before you hire them. And that's what makes verification essential, is really doing your due diligence, getting to know that person, because you're not sitting beside them 24/7. Hybrid leadership taught us that, you could never really truly know a person, whether or not you're beside them or virtual. It's coming down to really trusting your instincts. I think you mentioned that earlier. It's coming down to making sure you do your due diligence. Use companies that know what they're talking about, because if you're not in a space, it's the same. My husband's in construction. You don't hire a plumber to do your electricity. You don't do that. So use someone who's in that space, who knows the ropes, who knows what red flags to look for. It's really important.
Having support, I think, especially as hiring women who, I love this whole speed and precision. And I think a lot of female business owners, female professionals, executives can relate to that. And sometimes it ends up being, as you said, it impacts the fact that we feel like we have to do everything ourselves with speed and precision, when we don't necessarily need to do everything ourselves. We can rely on people. We can lean on professionals like yourself to help us. And what I'm hearing from you is, when we're in this scenario where we're bringing somebody on, I always say to people, taking on people as employees in your company or partners in your company it's sometimes very similar to taking on a personal partner. The stakes are high, right? So you really want to make sure you bring the right person in. And you're saying remote, it's even more important, because it might take you a longer time to get to know them. But your instincts are usually right. You just have to trust them. Right.
100%. And I want to preface this by saying, everyone always is looking for that unicorn. Everyone wants that perfect candidate, that perfect person to come on. But really, sometimes it's just about getting the job done and having the right person for the right job. It doesn't have to be this magical fairy that you can never find. It's really about finding people you can trust and finding people that have the same ambition and drive and share your goals. So That alignment is really just done by communicating. The way you and I are right now, you get to know a person by their responses and whether or not they show up. And that doesn't have to be done in person.
No, and it just made me think of the way we started our podcast, which is, Rihanna saying in her chorus, you put on quite a show. What we don't want are those people, right, who are putting on a show and we don't really know them. So as much support as we can get in identifying those people, background checking them, so that we can build the businesses that we want, we can grow the way we want, and these things don't end up creating some of these bottlenecks, and sometimes keeping people up at night, because I've seen that too, and I've been there too, where you just have the wrong candidate and they're kind of taking up way too much space in your life than they should, right? So definitely. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing, the importance of looking closer at the candidate, especially if you're remote, and really getting as much data, speaking of data, on them so that you can make the right decisions. So I want to now switch gears again, and I thought it'd be fun to do a lightning round with you. So are you with it?
I'm with it.
Okay, let's do this quick lightning round before we wrap up. Okay, tell me, confidence booster for you before you deal with a high stakes moment.
Mascara and a well-rehearsed agenda. One makes me look awake and the other one makes me sound awake.
Who knew mascara was a superpower? But thank you.
You did.
Okay, second, leadership lesson learned the hard way.
This was one of my favorite questions. Being comfortable in ambiguity. It's in the spaces that we're least comfortable that allow us the most space to grow. So that would be a huge, huge lesson.
Ambiguity, getting comfortable with that. Something we're always having to do, right?
Exactly.
I read this awesome quote by Joan Rivers today, which is, life doesn't get better. You get better, confidant community, hiring community. So get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because it's just going to keep coming. You're just going to be like, roll it off my back. Love it. Okay. What more women should do in business? What should more women do in business?
Take up more space and stop apologizing for it.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I myself am 6'1", so not even just literally, because I take up a lot of space, but also metaphorically. Like, just be there, be in it, and don't apologize.
You can only win it if you're in it. I love it. Okay.
Exactly.
Biggest misconception about background checks, you think?
That we're out to catch people. Really, it's about helping companies avoid future headaches. It's about getting students into jobs faster, the right students. We're more preventative medicine than private investigator.
Okay, that's good to know. Though I love the drama of it all. I have to be honest. When we were talking about private detective, I'm like, the drama. Anyways.
The drama. That's true.
Your favorite quote by a female leader
would be Maya Rudolph. I have this very strong philosophy. The worst thing that could happen is that you fail spectacularly and then move on.
I love it. Okay. Well, Caitlyn, honestly, this has been such an insightful conversation about credibility, confidence. We even talked about AI, clarity in leadership, working remotely. Anyway, for listeners who want to learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. This has been a wonderful conversation. Listeners can find me at AuraData.com, or I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn. Just don't send me any fake degrees. I will check.
Perfect. And to all of you listening, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Hiring Women podcast. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with another powerful woman in your circle. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories and practical insights. Also, feel free to DM us if you need support on your financial journey. Remember, money is power, and you deserve to own yours. So until next time, keep building, keep earning, and keep living the life that you want. Be in touch soon, High Earning community.
The title, wealth is a game. Power in heels or sneakers on deck. Respect comes easy when you earn that check. From boardroom to business.